The next century would herald the discovery of an occult text that went against more than tradition. It was a threat to the power of the Church. The Renaissance brought about a new spirit of learning, and academies sprung up throughout Europe. In the 15th century, Marsilio Ficino founded one of Italy's most progressive. With the support of his patron, Cosimo Medici, Ficino acquired and translated a collection of documents reputedly authored by a mysterious Egyptian magician named Hermes Trismegistus.
An emissary from the Orthodox Church brought a cache of documents, and Ficino found, I think it was 12 books supposedly written by Hermes. They weren't necessarily all written as one book, but they were gathered together once these translations were made.
The documents, which became known as the Hermeticum, contained teachings from the early Christian era that had been lost for centuries. Their pedigree appeared to be impeccable. The name of their supposed author, the mysterious Hermes Trismegistus, was a combination of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth, the two greatest gods of Greek and Egyptian magic.
There was occultism in there. There were esoteric doctrines. There was alchemy. There was magic. There was astrology. And Ficino and his school considered these documents to be extremely old, predating Plato, in fact, and having come from Egypt.
Scholars would determine that the man Hermes Trismegistus never existed.
What Ficino was translating was a compendium of Greek lore about how an individual could cultivate themselves and become enlightened. Raising of a given individual's consciousness until they are like the gods.
The books were set up as a series of dialogues between the god Hermes and others who conveyed the secrets of the universe.
If then you do not make yourself equal to God, you cannot apprehend God, for like is known by like. Leap clear of all that is corporeal, and make yourself to a like expanse with that greatness which is beyond all measure. Rise above all time, and become eternal, then you will apprehend God. Think that for you too nothing is impossible. Deem that you too are immortal, and that you are able to grasp all things in your thought, to know every craft and every science. Find your home in the haunts of every living creature. Make yourself higher than all heights and lower than all depths. Bring together in yourself all opposites of quality, heat and cold, dryness and fluidity. Think that you are everywhere at once, on land, at sea, in heaven. Think that you are not yet begotten, that you are in the womb, that you are young, that you are old, that you have died, that you are in the world beyond the grave. Grasp in your thought all this at once, all times and places, all substances and qualities and magnitudes together. Then you can apprehend God.
One of the documents was a short piece called the Emerald Tablet, which became the Bible of Renaissance occultists.
On this tablet, it was said, these are all legends, that there were 12 or 13 lines, and these lines started with "as above, so below." This was the great idea of the pattern of the universe, the pattern of the stars and the great universe is repeated as well on the earth.
The Hermeticum restated the teaching of the early mystery schools, that human beings possessed a divine nature.
So this is really the goal of Hermetic initiation and any other kind of initiation, would be to transcend our mortality and put us back into our ultimate state as spiritual peers.
The Hermeticum dazzled Renaissance scholars, and occultism was reborn. Could the idea that human beings shared a direct link to God undermine the authority of the Church?
The principal foundation of the Hermetic arts must be regarded as scientific. Hermetism, or Hermetic philosophy, was a science. And as it developed strongly along scientific lines until in the Middle Ages Hermetic philosophy became the synonym of chemistry. It was based upon a series of exact procedures. It was mathematical, and it made very little use of factors beyond the comprehension of the average person, although it did have certain abstract teachings. These abstract teachings, like Buddhism and Confucianism, were rooted in natural phenomena. They were rooted in familiar things, in common everyday occurrences. In this, the Hermetic school borrowed considerably from the Egyptian. For while the Egyptian had a very deep mysticism, his mysticism was always clothed in the familiar forms of natural phenomena. His after-world state, or after-death state, for example, the Elysian fields. This paradise was very similar to the Delta of the Nile. In fact, there was very little difference. Here, the celestial blessed did not rest forever, but had their proper cattle and plowed their fields just as they did on earth. The only thing is that the difference between the terrestrial Nile and the celestial Nile was essentially that the celestial Nile never failed, whereas the terrestrial Nile sometimes did not rise appropriately, and there could be famines in the land. But the heavenly streams, sustained and protected by the gods, meant forever that there would be prosperity in the blessed world, and that everyone would have enough to eat, everyone would enjoy the advantages of good living. Now, there's no doubt that the Egyptian priests and philosophers went beyond this point, but it is also an evident part of the daily religion of the people. And Hermetic philosophy has a relation to this. It also went far beyond materialism, but it never went beyond the concept of a universal law. It never transcended the idea that divine procedures were mathematical, that cause and effect were inevitable, that the progress of the human being came through the mastery of certain sciences, and that, of course, the science of sciences was that of life itself. Therefore, Hermetic philosophy emphasized life as an exact science, a science of human generation and regeneration, a science of human perfection, and the Hermetists believed and affirmed